Skin tones aren't real, presets are a scam, and perfectionism is destroying your editing. I could stop right there, but I've got a few more crazy ideas that I want to share with you in this video. 6 things that helped me break out of a rut and become a way better photo editor. Honestly, I don't know why more people don't talk about these things, but the nature of YouTube these days is just noise to get clicks. I, on the other hand, want to give you some solid advice that could change your career as a photographer. These aren't editing hacks, they're mindset shifts, and if you can get behind them and take them on board, I promise you will become a better photo editor. If we haven't met yet, my name is Mike and I'm an official Nikon creator and photography educator based in Australia. Over the past 2 years, I've helped millions of people understand photography with my daily short videos on Instagram and TikTok. But this year I'm jumping onto YouTube because I think it's finally time that I started digging a bit deeper into my photography explainers and helping people just like you become a better photographer. Let's talk about one of the biggest editing myths out there, the idea that there's one correct or true skin tone. I'm sure at one point while editing, you've painstakingly gone back and forth over an edit because you don't think the skin tones look right. And so many people get weirdly obsessed with trying to nail some correct RGB formula for skin tones, as if it's an equation. But here's the truth, skin tones can change. They change depending on your lighting, your camera profile, your white balance, and even the time of day. So if you're sitting there stressing out about your skin tones being too warm or too cool or not true to life, ask yourself, compared to what? Because there is no universal baseline for skin tones. The goal isn't accuracy, it's intention. Do the skin tones feel good? Does it match the intention of the photo? And does it fit with your style? The skin tone should always be dictated by the environment and the intentions of your edits. It's totally fine for the skin tones to be warm if you were shooting at sunset and the sky is blazing orange and so is everything else around the frame. Orange skin tones in that environment does not look out of place. But if you were to try and bring down the white balance to neutralize the skin tones, the feeling in the image is gone. It was supposed to be a warm afternoon with that warm glow. Or another example, let's say your skin tones look a little bit green because you were color grading that way. That's totally fine because it was done with intention. So tip number 1 is let go of this idea that you have to match some textbook skin tone. Skin can be golden, it can have a slight green tone, it can be even cool. It's whatever your story calls for. Remember, you're the artist. Only using global adjustments like contrast or saturation is like someone applying foundation and saying that they've done their makeup. Sure, you did a base coat, but different parts of the image need different levels of editing. I wish I knew this when I was first starting editing, but masking and selective adjustments are the most important part of editing. From simply masking, you can take a flat image like this and turn it into something like this that has dimension, that has character, and that tells a story. Using masking allows you to shape the light in your image and draw your viewer's attention to where you want it to go. It's a well-known fact that your eye is drawn to the brightest part of the image, so I use masking to make sure that I'm changing what the brightest part of the image is depending on where I want my viewer to look. I can also selectively sharpen some parts of the image and not others, or I can darken parts that are distracting and remove them out of the scene. In an extreme case, I've also reshaped the light to look like it was coming from the other direction to give a different mood and story. Masking unlocks a whole new world of editing, and I'm only scratching the surface here. So if you've never used masking before, you should definitely go and try it. I wish that I knew this tip way earlier. This is massive for my fellow overthinkers and perfectionists out there. The 85% rule is something that I started to implement in my editing after about 1 year of wedding photography, and trust me, I wish I did this earlier. In the beginning, I used to stress myself out over every single image, thinking that I had to make it perfect, as if there was some definition of perfect that I could get to. And when you have a gallery of 600 to 800 images, trying to make every image perfect is a nightmare, let alone impossible. I could spend 40 plus hours editing an entire wedding gallery, and to some of you that may sound crazy, but I know there are people out there who have done this as well. Don't lie to yourself. You spend all week editing and then you have no time left for anything else like running your business. If you come from a background in landscape photography or portrait photography like I did, it can be hard to let go of that idea of each image having to be perfect. I mean, when you're only editing 2 to 3 images per client, that's totally fine. But when you're editing a gallery of 600 plus images, it's just unsustainable. So I adopted the 85% rule. I get my edit to 85% perfect and then move on to the next one. Trust me, you are always your biggest critic, and your 85% is 110% to the client. You could spend another 2 hours doing skin retouching and fine tuning the tone curve, but your clients will never notice those adjustments. There is no return on investment after 85%. You're just wasting your time at that point. So next time you're editing, remember 85% and then move on. It's a real shame that I have to say this, but honestly, presets never work. Other people's presets, that is. Let me be really clear with you. There is no one-size-fits-all editing preset. Presets only work in very specific lighting conditions or locations. Sure, someone might have a beautiful preset, and they show you examples from a luxury wedding that they shot in Lake Como, and then you try and apply them to your overcast grey wedding that you shot in Yorkshire. It ain't gonna work. The lighting conditions weren't the same, you weren't in the same location, you don't have the same style as that person, not to mention you probably don't use the same camera, so the color science is going to be different. It's fine to use presets for very specific circumstances, but you need different presets for different times of the day. You need a preset for nighttime photos and a different preset for photos at midday, a preset for golden hour and a different preset for blue hour, a preset for photos on a beach, and a different preset for photos in a forest. Trust me, you cannot buy a one-size-fits-all preset and expect it to be the cure for all your editing woes. And if you have bought a preset that does work really well in a bunch of different scenarios, that tells me that that preset isn't doing a whole heap. In which case you should probably follow my next bit of advice, which is just create your own presets. It's actually really simple, and I tell all of my students inside my photo editing course that you should be creating presets for everything that you do. If you always edit your nighttime photos a certain way, create a preset for it. If you really like the tones in that golden hour portrait, create a preset for it. If you've stumbled upon a really nice way to edit your greens that keeps them subtle and not too in your face, create a preset for it. Not only are you building up your own catalog of presets that will actually work on your images, you're also understanding what your presets actually do. I could make a whole video on this and scream until the cows come home, but I'll just leave it there. Hopefully you take my advice, go play around with your editing a little bit and create presets when you find something that you really like. This tip might scare a few people, but hear me out. You need to go heavier than you think. A lot of beginner editors, and let's be honest, some pros as well, don't go hard enough because they're scared of over-editing their photos. They don't want to ruin their image and push it too far, so instead they just play it safe. But the truth is, safe edits are boring. They feel indecisive. If you don't know what you're doing with your edits, your viewer doesn't know what they're looking at. So here's what I do. I intentionally push everything further. More contrast, more saturation, more grain, whatever it is I'm working on. And then I pull it back just a little bit. Always take it too far and let your eyes adjust and then pull it back a little bit. You see, the problem with you editing your photos is that you've seen the original version. So any edits that you make seem drastic compared to the original image, which was probably pretty flat and boring. By pushing it too far and then dialing it back, your eyes are now comparing to that extreme edit, so anything less appears more normal. Honestly, this is why I hate that before and after view, because of course your edits look extreme compared to that flat before image. Anything would look intense compared to that, but the goal isn't to be subtle. The goal is to be intentional with your edits. If you're going for a warm, nostalgic vibe, commit to it. If you want moody and desaturated, just own it. Great edits don't happen because you played it safe. They happen because you made a decision and you stuck to it. This one might sting a little bit, but it needs to be said. Take better photos. If your editing isn't working, it might not be your editing. It might just be a bad photo. I know we're here to talk about editing, but your editing will never reach its full potential if the photos that you're editing in the first place aren't very good. I truly believe that photography is 50% editing, but you can't forget about the other 50%, which is actually taking the photo. Trying to edit your way out of a bad photo is like putting lipstick on a pig. And trust me, I've been there. I was taking bad photos for years and thinking, oh, it's all right, I'll just fix it in post. No, you cannot fix it in post. If your lighting is bad, the exposure is way off, there's no emotion or feeling in your image, no color grading is gonna bring that back and make it a really nice photo. At a certain point, you've got to stop blaming your editing tools and ask yourself a serious question. Is this a good photo? So much of what we think are editing problems are actually photography problems. Stop underexposing your skin tones and trying to recover them in post. Always make sure your photos are in focus and then you won't have to AI sharpen them later. Always pay attention to the color of your background or what different light is hitting your subject. And finally, watch out for your composition and pay attention to what emotion is happening in your image. Start with a clear intention of what you want and don't just spray and pray, because when you start with intention, the edit becomes so much simpler. It honestly becomes fun, and editing is no longer just damage control. Now, you don't need to be a world-class photographer, but you've just got to give yourself a chance when you open up those files in Lightroom. I know Lightroom and Photoshop are pretty powerful, but they can't fix everything. Photo editing can be so much fun, and it really allows you to develop your own style as a photographer. To be honest, it's one of my favorite parts of the job. But in order to enjoy it, you've got to stop stressing yourself out so much. Remember, there is no correct way in which a photo should be edited. Trust your vision and commit to the look that you have in your head. If you're struggling to understand the basics basics of photo editing, my live photo editing course is open for enrollments for this week only. I'm teaching 8 live classes over the next 4 weeks, everything from how to set up your Lightroom catalog to color grading, the tone curve, and even some really cool Photoshop tricks. I will leave a link down below if you want to check it out, but remember, enrollments have to close next week because this is a live photo editing course, so we're all going through it together. This is my 3rd cohort of students, and I'm super excited to jump in and teach these classes live. But until next time, I hope you have a great week and get out there and keep practicing those photo editing skills.